यो।
Ah,
सो
hello.
बताइए।
Yeah. Hello, guys. Block height 902159. फिर से कहूँगा बिटकॉइन ब्लॉक हाइट 902159 and me, Nihal, Setu and Digant, we are starting India's first Bitcoin Treasury podcast. The name of the show is Bitcoin Strategy. So we will discuss so many important things about corporate side of Bitcoin and या बहुत कुछ है. इंट्रो इज बहुत छोटा पड़ेगा इंट्रो इसके लिए. सो या लेट्स
Sure.
स्टार्ट.
Thank you for that introduction, Bhavik. For those new to the show, Nihal and Bhavik, आप हम दोनों को regularly देखते हैं, but we have our regular guests from now on to the show, Digant and Saurabh. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Sure, I can go first. So, I am Saurabh, more popularly known as Saurabh, but I am heading operations for Bitshala, and my day job involves, helping the cohorts, the fellowships, the clubs, the meetups that Bitshala runs for developers and for designers to work in open source. Over weekends, I work on Bitcoin Search, which is one of the concierge desk for to offer advisory services to investors, and which is also trying to do some sort of some consulting work to companies so that they can adopt Bitcoin in their balance sheet. They can sort of buy Bitcoin and custody it. So these are two organizations that I'm part of.
So hi guys, myself Digant. So basically, I have been into Bitcoin since end of last part of 2023. But since that time, I was looking into it, and but I haven't figured out the technical aspects. Then I joined the Bitshala Mastering Bitcoin cohort, and from that point in time, I came to know Saurabh. Yeah, and I have been watching Nihal and Bhavik do this weekly show. I think since 2 months now, I have been their regular watcher, not in live, but yeah, I have been watching the recorded episodes. Yeah, and I am the host of TradFi and Bitcoin Club of Bitshala, which happens every Tuesday. And also, I like Bitcoin treasuries basically because the background which I have cleared my CFA level one, so I was figuring out what can I do, like how can I use my background to in Bitcoin. So that's the reason why I started to look into the treasuries, different kind of treasuries. So yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. Great. So, for those who are new to the show, the podcast, the playlist, Jesabi, please check out Bitshala. And a lot of people are getting enamored by the treasury companies, rightfully so. They're performing exceptionally well. And like what we've said in the past, some of them resemble how volatile Bitcoin was in its early days, 2013, 2014 ke aspas. So it needs to be taken with a pinch of salt, and it cannot be your only way to, study about Bitcoin. So if you want the proper direction, go to Bitshala, check out their Discord server, do the work before, actual on ground investing, वगैरह. And first things first, disclaimer, this is not an investment advice channel. What we are doing here is we are sharing the updates which are happening on a global scale with respect to Bitcoin being adopted by companies across the world. And that is something which we need to speak about on a regular basis. And because India, say, I think there is only one company that has been very vocal about their Bitcoin purchases so far. And we strongly believe, that's why we have started this show, that every few months from now on, we will get to see some sort of development in India itself when it comes to Bitcoin corporate adoption. So, without a further ado, let's just begin on what we have for today, and then we can figure stuff out from there. Yep.
Nihal, can you share the last tweet of MicroStrategist microstrategies.com, Bitcoin Power Law. So we will start how risky is this first, and then we will go
Okay.
what is happening.
So there is a flow that I've already put out, and when that
Oh,
slide
okay,
comes,
no
we
problem.
will definitely
Yeah, yeah,
talk more. Yep.
sure, sure.
Chiliye. So first things first, Bitcoin Siege is something which Saurabh and Digant also are a part of, and we would like you to check it out on what the services are. There's a huge list of people who are involved who come from diverse backgrounds in the tech space, the investment banking space, and the accountants, and everyone is contributing from the knowledge they have, and they will be talking more about Bitcoin merging with traditional finance. So moving on. So this is our first interaction, Bhavik's and mine, on our show Bitcoin Hub when we interviewed Mr. Siddharth of the CFO of JetKing, जो इंडिया का बिटकॉइन ट्रेजरी स्पेस पायनियर कर रहे हैं. As of today, they hold 21 Bitcoin with them. And this is a proud moment for Bhavik and I, as Michael Saylor himself tweeted one of our shows. And hopefully, the playlist that we're starting today gets global recognition, and we will be charting a new course with this. Yeah. So, first things first, recently on June 17th, there was a tweet put out by Siddharth that they have approximately 6 million USD worth of real estate, and they are slowly looking to liquidate it over the course of the next few years and buy Bitcoin with it. And this is something which has been told a lot about in the Bitcoin space, where Bitcoin does eat up the real estate market share, the gold market share, and the money market share. Now, we are seeing this happen in real life and real time by one of the companies in India, and this will only accelerate from now on. Guys, what do you have to say about this? ये जो रियल एस्टेट की बात हो रही है in terms of how they are liquidating some of their assets in real estate, which is known to be one of the best ways to park money in India in terms of appreciation of value, yeah, just a land value. Like a lot of people are very drawn and attached to real estate in India. What's your two cents on this, please?
Yeah, my take on that is before internet, a lot of these businesses used to get their customers from call centers. So they used to have extensive call centers, and it's like these customers of call center figuring out that, you know what, we'll fire some of our call center employees and put up a website form, because internet is just a much better technology to connect with your customers. It's time that people realize that Bitcoin is just a much better savings technology, and no other asset sort of competes against it. So we are going to see more and more of corporates, especially letting go of real estate that they have invested in, or the cash that's lying with them, or other equities that they have hoarded just to manage their, uh, uh, spare cash that they keep. We would see a lot of them moving towards Bitcoin in the times to come. The time horizon that I have is like maybe 2 cycles, maybe 3 cycles, but we will see a lot more companies doing it.
Right. Guys, Bhavik, Digant,
Mm,
you got any additions?
या रियल एस्टेट देखो, मुझे लगता है रियल एस्टेट के पास 70-80% मॉनेटरी प्रीमियम है, जो बिटकॉइन के नहीं होने से था वो. तो अब बिटकॉइन आ चुका है, तो अब हम देखेंगे रियल एस्टेट से वैसा मूव होता हुआ बिटकॉइन में. एंड या सेतु ने काफ़ी कवर किया है ये, बट या रियल एस्टेट इज अ फर्स्ट इज बिटकॉइन, सेकंड इज गोल्ड, थर्ड इज रियल एस्टेट मे बी, और मे बी सेकंड इज ट्रेजरी कंपनीज.
या ये भी होने वाला है कि बहुत सारी जो कंपनीज हैं वो बिटकॉइन अगर नहीं ले पा रही हैं क्योंकि दे डू नॉट हैव द एक्सपर्टाइज, दे वुड जस्ट go out and buy JetKing stocks, or they will just go out and buy Semler or MicroStrategy or Naka stocks. So that's also going to happen, though Indian corporates cannot do that right now. It's difficult. I mean, they can do, but it's pretty difficult. But it's going to happen. Yeah.
What I think about this Siddharth Bharwani, he has done a great move. Like as we know, as Bhavik was saying, but real estate has a monetary premium. So what I think is like Bitcoin is going to eat that monetary premium, and real estate will come around the utility value part. So this will also make real estate affordable to the common people. If you guys know, like in Mumbai, the salary to house ratio is something in the like it's high even than in US or England. So the months of salary which is required to buy a house is highest in Indian cities. So hopefully Bitcoin will solve this problem, and hopefully everybody will be able to buy a house. Yeah, that's it.
Got it. Cool. Speaking of Mumbai and Jet King and the move that Siddharth and the company are doing, there's a meetup which is being organized by Bitcoin Surge again, and it's hosted by Amol. And this will be held in the Jet King office, the corporate office. You can find all the details in meetup.com Bitcoin Surge. It's happening on 29th. That's next Sunday, and whoever's interested in knowing about this in detail and interacting with Siddharth as well, because I think he'll be there, please go ahead and check it out. And yeah, that's moving on. अगेन यहाँ पे इंडिया में ज़्यादा बात नहीं हो रही है इसके बारे में, बट globally Bitwise is one of the leading Bitcoin ETF providers, and they're well renowned in their space in what they do. They've been putting out, you know, Bitwise के जो CIO हैं Matt Hugin, he's put out a recent investor memo, and it clearly states that the central banks are buying gold. And what happens next is, I mean, gold is accumulated during times of uncertainty, and gold has specific qualities, no doubt about that. But when you see hard assets, and when you compare the properties and qualities of Bitcoin and gold, Bitcoin is far superior in terms of scalability and portability. And that is why people and governments are looking at moving and parking some of their uh, monies in Bitcoin as well. Now, these are the properties that, you know, are extremely important in terms of uncertainty. It needs to be scarce, global, difficult for governments to manipulate, and capable of being held directly in a self-sovereign manner. Now, that is why you see Bitcoin as a growing hedge against the debasement of the individual fiat currencies across the world as well. This is something which I think, and all of us on this show think, is happening in real time as we speak, where TradFi is enamored by what's happening by Bitcoin treasury companies, and Bitcoin is being accumulated by these companies and held on their balance sheet. Now, not every company that holds Bitcoin is responsible. Some of them will blow up during uncertain times, and that can happen because Bitcoin surprises the best of peoples and analysts. And when you see, it has gone down like 70-80% in the past, Bitcoin has gone down, and we might not see the same level of retraction this time, but at the same time we cannot, neglect or put that possibility aside. Now, when that happens, the treasury companies which are new and which have only seen the bull market side of Bitcoin will falter, will fumble, and there will be a lot of repercussions in the market. So this needs to be highlighted on which company is responsibly doing this and which company is just doing this to chase the hype. So yeah.
I
Guys.
wanted to call out something as in this is one way in which I look at the world, which is like looking at a lot of parallels. And if you see back when in 90s people used to use internet, it was pretty clear that everyone will use internet one fine day, and it will spread to everyone. But in 2000, what happened was a lot of companies with no business model just stuck a website to their business, right? So they were not doing anything. They were selling, someone they were selling pets, as a pets toys. Someone was selling like vegetables. When your infrastructure is not ready, and someone would just go ahead and plaster a website, uh, and they would have nothing. They would not be selling anything. And not every one of those companies actually did great. In fact, a lot of them went bust in 2001 to 2001. Like the the stock bust that happened in US, I I I see that the risk with what a lot of companies might what this industry might face is going it could be something similar, uh, because because once you have this hype that is right now there with Bitcoin treasury companies, more and more people will realize that Bitcoin is the best savings technology ever built. And a lot of them might not have any revenue or business model. A lot of them get into a lot of debt to purchase as much Bitcoin as they can, hoping that because it will continue to go up and up, you can take in more debt and continue to pump it up and increase your stock price, and then you get to raise more debts and all that. But unless you have some kind of sustainable business model or some cash flows, it's a pretty risky strategy. But like it happens with all the booms and the busts, it booms and busts are great ways of spreading a technologies. For example, you see the railways in US went through this boom and bust cycle, and that's how you had such massive expansion of railway networks in US. You had tech companies going through this boom and bust cycle, and that's how you get so much capital, so much talent sort of flowing. And then because they have nothing else to do, once the bust happens, they figure out creative things to do, and over time you get something like Google and Facebook coming out of these things. So I truly believe, as I mentioned, every company will be a Bitcoin company. Some of them will, of course, fail this experiment because they are being super greedy. They could get super greedy. That's how human nature is. But probably people will learn that if you don't have Bitcoin in your balance sheet, you will not make it the way people learned it over the internet.
Yeah. Bhavik, Digant, आपका कुछ कहना है इस पे?
Yeah.
And this chart that we
uh,
have over here. So this is updated on
mhm,
June 16th, the top 100 list of the Bitcoin treasury companies for those who are looking. Yeah, please. Carry
mhm. So हम ये बात कर रहे हैं कि दिस कंपनीज कैन फेल एंड जैसे डॉट कॉम बबल में सेतु ने बताया कि हुआ था ऐसा। सो अभी आप ये देखो कि जनवरी में जब बिटकॉइन ने हाई बनाया था 109, एंड देन उसके बाद बिटकॉइन 30% करेक्शन हुआ था, करेक्ट हुआ था टिल टिल 7 अप्रैल। 30% करेक्ट हुआ था, 31%। उसमें एम जो सबसे जायंट है, सबसे उसके आगे आगे पीछे कोई नहीं है जायंट, वो ही 59% करेक्ट हुआ था अपने ऑल टाइम हाई से। एंड मेटा प्लेनेट जो है, जो लास्ट ईयर का फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग स्टॉक मार्केट था, फास्टेस्ट ग्रोइंग स्टॉक था, वो गिरा इफ आई एम नॉट रॉन्ग 70 to 80%, 70% मे बी 75 78%। सो आगे अभी तक 2.5 साल से बिटकॉइन बुल ट्रेंड में ही चल रहा है। बिटकॉइन अगर 40 50 के आसपास भी करेक्ट हुआ ना, तो ये सारे खत्म, लाइक सम ऑफ नहीं भाई, मुझे लग रहा है मेनी ऑफ देम कलेप्स हो सकता है। बट पता नहीं अब मैकेनिज्म कैसे चलता है इसका, लाइक डू दे हैव टू सेल देयर बिटकॉइन और डू दे हैव टू बाई द स्टॉक्स और एट बॉटम, और उनको लिक्विडिटी मिलेगी भी नहीं तब। बट या इट्स अ वेरी रिस्की प्ले। और वॉल स्ट्रीट ने ऐसे क्या बोलते हैं, वो खून, लाइक शेर ने खून चख लिया, ऐसा कुछ है ना। So,
ब्लडबाथ।
हाँ,
Yeah, सबको like वो पेपर गेन्स दिखते हैं ना, लाइक फिएट गेन्स। अगर आप एक कंपनी देखोगे, स्मार्टर वेब कंपनी, विल बी टॉकिंग मोर अबाउट इट इन अ शॉर्ट while. They've grown 2000% in less than a month. Now that will obviously raise eyebrows in the traditional finance keh lo ya and stuff. And so that is something which needs to be treated with absolute caution, because the world is used to see, 5% returns, 2% returns, 10%, 15, maximum it has stretched up to 15, 16%. And when you see these numbers exceeding a certain level, there is a lot of greed which will be fueled in the market, and then people will start buying on leverage, vagera vagera, which is extremely risky and is not advisable in any case. And again, I once again put it out there that not an investment advice for anyone looking at this, and it is for you to be knowledgeable on how these companies operate and what these people do. So to add to that, there are a couple of parameters, I mean KPIs, which are newly formed, and this is thanks to Strategy, which is the largest holder of Bitcoin as of today. And they have devised certain of the parameters and the metrics which you will hear a lot from now on. So this is a new thing, and a lot of companies and a lot of organizations in the world have no idea on how to value a company which holds Bitcoin on its balance sheet. Now, as Bhavik and I have spoken about this before, कि अभी तक, before the Bitcoin standard came into existence, that was in 2020, उससे पहले people were focused and hell bent on improving their income part of the balance sheet, and assets which are held on the balance sheet उसको ये ज़्यादा ध्यान नहीं दे रहे थे. And that is one of the reasons why we're seeing the mindset shift on having something as hard and as accretive and as growth friendly as Bitcoin move onto balance sheet and do nothing. So when people say Bitcoin kuch nahi karta, it's just a pet rock. Sure, at this point of time, it is in the store of value phase where these companies are accumulating, and one of these companies is strategy. So अगर आप सेलर के इंटरव्यूज भी सुनोगे, so what has happened in the past and what he's clearly told is till 2032 it's the gold rush period where their only objective is to accumulate Bitcoin as much as possible. उसके बाद what are the sources of incomes which they generate are entirely up to them. They could become a Bitcoin bank, and they could loan out Bitcoin for, a high interest rate or whatever, and that's how it plays out. But yeah, these are some of the metrics. Digant, if you would want to take us through this, and then we can proceed with the rest.
Yeah. So as you can see, the first metric is BTC yield. So BTC yield is basically the change in number of shares divided by current Bitcoin stack. The change in number of Bitcoins divided by current Bitcoin stack, and you have to take into account the diluted shares also. So whatever we get, that number that is termed as Bitcoin yield. And BTC gain is the number of new Bitcoins which you have acquired. BTC dollar gain is simply BTC gain into the dollar price of Bitcoin, Bitcoin NAV. So don't confuse yourself with traditional NAV. Here in like how this term has evolved, the NAV here means Bitcoin NAV and not net asset value. In traditional sense, we expect debt and other things to be subtracted, but here we take the whole stack of Bitcoin and then multiply, like yeah, that is known as a Bitcoin NAV, and then we multiply the dollar value. BTC rating, BTC value related to liabilities. So there are some liabilities which these Bitcoin treasury companies have, like Strategy has convertibles. Even the preferreds are a kind of liability. So BTC rating is a evolving term, and this would be used while doing the credit analysis part of these Bitcoin treasury companies. So this might become a golden standard or a Bitcoin standard rating to rate this, like how we know this CRISIL and the different Moody's and Standard and Poor. They do ratings like AAA, AA, these kind of things. So this BTC rating metric might be useful in the future while rating the bonds or rating the preferreds of these Bitcoin treasury companies. Uh, BTC multiple, Bitcoin value created per dollar of equity issued. So yeah, it's self-explanatory, reveals efficiency of converting equity capital into Bitcoin value. Compare companies' Bitcoin creation per equity dollar. So it's more of a related to per dollar of equity issued. Next is Bitcoin torque. BTC value created per dollar capital invested. So Bitcoin multiple and Bitcoin torque. Bitcoin torque for if you guys have seen strategies Q1 Q1 yeah Q1 earning call. So in that they have like given out some uh, great explanation. Like the call was literally 2 hours or 2.5 hours long call. So I haven't seen a company hosting their Q1 call this long and explaining each and every metric. So yeah, they have done a good work while explaining this metric. So BTC torque is basically like when you when you do the equity, like if you do MSTR ATM and sell MSTR shares, then we can calculate value via BTC multiple. But BTC torque calculates the preferreds, the convertible bonds. So when you use preferreds and convertible bonds, the more better metric how the value is created for the company is BTC torque, not the BTC multiple. So if we come to next is MNAV. MNAV is like it's a simpler metric, market premium to Bitcoin NAV divided by like market cap divided by BTC NAV. So let's say for example, currently uh, I am taking like rough figures. Like for example, strategy has 100 billion market cap. They have 50 billion in Bitcoin. So their MNAV would be 2. So yeah, and the next thing is MNAV days to cover. So this metric has been introduced by Adam Back. So this is an interesting metric, but you have to keep in mind when you take this metric into account, you are driving the car while looking into the rear view mirror because the yield which you use while calculating the days to cover MNAV is previous yield. So what these days to cover MNAV is how much amount of yield do you require to cover this MNAV which you are paying right now if you buy a share. Like for example, strategies days to cover MNAV or months to cover MNAV is nearly 22 or 24 months. It's nearly 2 years. So to cover the premium which you are paying today, you require you require 2 years to cover that yield. So this is a metric, but this thing is based on the previous Bitcoin yields generated. So whenever you see a Bitcoin treasury company, the yield is on a downtrend, like because of the number of Bitcoin is capped 21 million. Company cannot sustain the high Bitcoin yields, and yeah, due to the lower base also currently these new companies are having high Bitcoin yields, but going forward into the future, the trend will be downward. One thing I want to add is like everything trends to zero against Bitcoin, but these treasuries will tend to one. Yeah, that's it.
Got it. Awesome. So this is something that all the banks and institutions are unaware of as of now, and this is being popularized by one company, which is Strategy, and इन्होंने ये पूरे metrics निकाले हैं. And sure, some of the metrics might not make sense as of now, but in due course it will make sense. Is what my take on that is. Because अगर आप देखोगे, uh, again, brand new credit and stride tabs are live on their website. So basically what they're doing is they are giving you a case study, a real time case study on how to measure these instruments in terms of agar itna price hai and itna volatility aap expect karte ho, then how much will all of these preferred stock and convertible debt instruments be valued at in terms of their notional value, their duration, their BTC rating, which is entirely new concept. It reflects Bitcoin NAV divided by the sum of notional values of the rated instrument. So BTC rating is the true rating for these companies, the credit rating agar aap manoge, and how they are collateralized. Now, when you look at something like a Strife, which is one of their preferred stock offerings, it's over collateralized by 6 times. And the same thing with Strike, it's 5.9 times, and Stride is 5.3 times. And आगे चल के we'll see on how this pans out. And what's in store is that one of the other companies that we'll be talking about, MetaPlanet, now they have a lot of instruments under their belt where they'll be acquiring more Bitcoin. And recently they issued their 555 million plan. And what that means is they'll be issuing that worth of उतने amount का stock in the market, and with that proceeds they'll be buying Bitcoin, and they have a target which they want to achieve, which is was it 0.1% or 1% of the entire Bitcoin supply? I think
Yeah, 1%.
210.
1%.
Yeah.
1%. 210. Yeah.
Yeah.
000.
सौरभ, आप कुछ बोलना चाह रहे? No? Okay.
Yeah, I was coughing. Sorry.
Okay,
एक
Bhavik.
चीज मुझे दिगांत दिगांत में कहनी है कि ऐसा नहीं है क्या, जो दिगांत ने लास्ट में बोला कि एवरीथिंग ट्रेंड्स टू जीरो अगेंस्ट बिटकॉइन, बट दिस ट्रेजरी विल टेंड्स टू वन. मुझे लग रहा है कि
Yeah,
इट विल नॉट लाइक टेंड्स की जगह वी कैन यूज ओसिलेट अराउंड वन. वी कैन यूज लाइक
yeah,
इट
yeah.
विल ओसिलेट अराउंड वन. लाइक बुल मार्केट में उसके ऊपर होगा, बेयर मार्केट में उसके डाउन होगा.
True,
सो आई थिंक
true.
इट विल ओसिलेट अराउंड वन. लाइक मैं इस तरह मुझे समझ में आ रहा है, बट देखते हैं.
Yeah,
This is something which Digant also focused on initially when we were talking about where Bitcoin yield is the one metric which needs to be focused on, and how other companies are being overvalued in these terms. So अगर आप इसके बारे में भी अगर if you can give a थोड़ा understanding on what this means.
yeah. Like you can see the graph here, every treasury company's yield, if you start seeing, then it is trending downwards, except currently Meta Planet. You can see it's horizontal. So I think this is because their Japanese market thing, because they are able to literally raise whenever they want at a 0% cost. But I believe like they will also trend down, but yeah, uh, currently they are doing a pretty great work, because if you can see the gray line here, that is that started below 1%, but it's they are clearly holding themselves around the 1% mark of BTC yield per day. So they are doing a pretty great work. But if you see other companies, like you can clearly see the trend, like they are going down. Yeah, some exceptions might be there, like H100, the blue line is going up because currently they are at like literally the base is very small. So like it is not good to compare a new Bitcoin treasury company with the older ones. Also, I think SWC is also flattish, but the general trend will always decrease because the number of Bitcoins, as you increase the number of Bitcoins, the yield generation part will become harder and harder. So that's the thing. And if you come to, yeah, no, yeah, can you come back to first part?
ये
Come
था ना?
up. No, no, yeah, this side. Okay, come up.
मेन ट्वीट
Go
मेन
up.
ट्वीट.
Digant,
Go.
is this a fair
वो
assessment that
गया.
because BTC yield per day will decrease for every company who has been holding Bitcoin, it's an incentive for newer companies to hold Bitcoin more than the existing companies to increase their stack, because they will receive a much better valuation than what the existing company will get by just increasing more stacks. So it just distributes Bitcoin more. There's an incentive to distribute Bitcoin more evenly as much as possible rather than one company stacking it all.
Yeah, good point. I haven't thought of this, but when you said, I thought, and I am thinking like this is the thing, like because if you can see the H100, the K33 or SWC, they are at crazy MNAV, like 30, 40 MNAV is going on. Nihal, if you can open the first part of the tweet.
This
Yeah,
one.
this second, yeah, yeah, this one,
Just
second one.
following up on that thought, does it make sense then for people to revolve their monies like they were like shitcoiners was doing like a couple of years back, from like uh, pump and dump basically? So you join in and then it pumps and then you dump to join in another coin. Just sharing those
What
ideas, yeah.
what I have thought is like this Bitcoin is your hard saving asset, and anything you are doing around this Bitcoin and giving your self-custodied Bitcoin is pure investment. So investment comes at a risk. So like I see Bitcoin treasuries as a trading instrument, not as a investment instrument when you compare it with Bitcoin. There are like strategy and Metaplanet. They have like particularly strategy. According to me, they have like more and more weapons in their bags, like strike, strive, stride, which because of that they can continue buying Bitcoin even in the bear phase of the cycle. So I think uh, currently all the accumulation of Bitcoin is based on the share issuance, if you see, and some of the companies have tried the Bitcoin denominated convertible debt, that is the blockchain group and H100. So that is also interesting, but I see these treasury companies like a trading instrument to gather more Bitcoin. So yeah, that is the thing. And the risk which I wanted to tell you is like NAV compression. So as you can see here in this chart, the NAVs for this Coincilium, K33, SWC, Moon. So these MNAVs are like higher than 50, I think, for K33 and Coincilium. So the two ways are there are two ways to bring down MNAV. First one is the share price drops, and second one is the company like buys heavy amounts of Bitcoin. So either of the two will happen. So when you are entering like at these higher MNAV valuations, you are at a risk of MNAV falling. So even if their Bitcoin stack stays constant and if MNAV falls, easily it can erode like 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of the initial amount which you have invested. So that's a concern which you have to take into account while you invest in these newer treasuries. Like 1 month back or 2 months back, you like Bhavik was mentioning, Metaplanet was down nearly 75, 80%. So this downturn will happen because of this MNAV compression during the like when BTC trends down. Like Bitcoin just was down like from 109 to 75, but Metaplanet was down 75, 80%. So these treasuries will have heavier volatility than Bitcoin. So if you are not okay with volatility, then please avoid these things or keep a very small part of your portfolio into these Bitcoin treasuries. That's it.
या सौरभ की बात में कि यस मार्केट क्या उनको इंसेंटिवाइज कर रहा है क्या बिटकॉइन को डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करने के लिए, तो मुझे लग रहा है कि हाँ, क्योंकि मैंने खुद ही ऐसे किया कि एमएसटीआर था, उसने थोड़ा रिटर्न दिया तो मैंने मेटाप्लेट में डाला, वो 3-4 गुना हो गया तो वो मैंने थोड़ा एएलटीबीजी लिया, वो 50% भगा तो वो निकल के मैंने कल K33 लिया है. सो मतलब आई एम पुटिंग माई मनी फॉर टू स्मॉलर कंपनी, सो लाइक अब हमें माइक्रो स्ट्रेटेजी का एडवांटेज नहीं है. अब अगर वो नहीं, अगर लाइक ऐसा सिस्टम नहीं होता तो सारा पैसा स्ट्रेटेजी के पास ही रहता एंड वो एक्यूमुलेट कर लेती. बट अब आज देखो कि मेटा प्लेनेट ये ट्राई कर रहा है कि 2 साल या लाइक स्ट्रेटेजी को कितना टाइम लगा 2 लाख बिटकॉइन आने में, 3-4 साल लग गए. एंड मेटा प्लेनेट शायद उससे फास्ट अचीव कर सकता है ये, इवन दो
Yeah.
द प्राइस इज 3 to 4 times हायर देन दैट. सो ये
To
हो रहा
add
है,
to
ये
what
हो रहा है.
Bhavik said, when you're doing this rotation, one of the key things to also consider is the tax implication, because that a lot of people are still unclear about. And if you are doing these treasury companies through India and stuff, इनके भी बहुत सारी compliance and stuff होते हैं which needs to be catered to and adhered to as well. So do consider those aspects also, because as much as we want to focus on the returns and the bright side of things, ye sari the realistic aspect of it which needs to be checklist and check marked as well. But sure, I mean, if a person is earning like 200, 500,000%, unhe, I mean, 30% tax or 20% tax should be easily, you know it shouldn't matter much.
So
Yeah,
on that
definitely
point, I just
apply.
wanted to call out there are setups wherein you have no capital gains or there are very low taxes. For example, in India, there's something called Gift City, and on Gift City, your taxes are uh, waived off, which are your advisor fees or which are your gains. But even the capital gains, if you're making it on your proprietary trades, not your investors' money, but on your proprietary trades and you want to call it like one of you have a bucket. Like you can call 10 years out of the first 15 years of your existence as a tax free years. So you can just mark that year out, that zero taxes for this year, and you can keep that capital gains. So I'm sure like that, those kind of destinations, or outside India, you have Singapore or other countries where there are no capital gains, right? Or very low capital gains. Those jurisdictions will become even more attractive to invest into such asset classes.
Absolutely. And we will talk more about this. We will cover this in depth in the following episodes, where we will show a proper breakdown on what is available and what are the options available, वगैरह. But yeah, that's one point to absolutely consider. Moving on, like Digant also mentioned, the BTC Treasuries mania, from safest to riskiest place. The first and foremost, it's the spot Bitcoin. Uh, there is nothing, there's no second best, literally. And उसके बाद में whatever the safe thing is the MSTR bit, which is the blue chip of Bitcoin treasuries. And उसके बाद आते हैं आपके like Simon and Dylan have proven with their communication, with their openness, that they are committed to what they are doing. And obviously they have mentorship of Sailor as well. तो ये दोनों कंपनीज आती हैं उसमें, MTPLF and AltPG. And उसके बाद में जो भी है, it's high risk high reward types, and you need to be extremely careful with whatever you need to get your hands with. Now, speaking of Metaplanet, the other company which is the faster horse than MSTR कह लो, इनके बारे में reports आई हैं. This is the second report which has been published on 16th June, and they have holdings of up to 10,000 Bitcoin by then. Last week उन्होंने announce किया था कि they've reached the target. So basically, they have more Bitcoin than Coinbase. Now, Coinbase is a well-known name in the cryptocurrency space. इन्होंने start किया था, I think 2013 को, when Bitcoin was trading at around $6. They had all the chance to become the first Bitcoin treasury company, but they fumbled it to introduce shitcoins. बहुत सारे. It's basically a gambling platform at this point, and that's my opinion on it, because they had all the chance to develop something extremely robust. Now, Metaplanet, which was a failing real estate company with a lot of individual hotels in Tokyo, they sold all of that, bought Bitcoin with it. They have a plan, they have a 3-year plan, 5-year plan on how they will accumulate, how they'll manage the Bitcoin yield, how they'll manage the MNAV. ये सब कुछ इस रिपोर्ट में मेंशन किया है, and there are a lot of things that they are doing. Like, people always say कि ठीक है, बिटकॉइन का खरीद लिया, अब क्या करोगे? Now, Bitcoin, as we all know, is very volatile, and one of the main things that Metaplanet is doing is harnessing that volatility by using the options market, and उससे they buy more Bitcoin, and they buy Bitcoin at a cheaper price. So they are at a win-win situation when they adopt that strategy, and that strategy of theirs has been income generation aspect of it. And that also brings us to the tax implication of Metaplanet in the US jurisdiction, where abhi recently they have a new clause where, how are you treating Metaplanet as? Are you treating it as an income generating company or just an asset holding company? So उस हिसाब से the tax structures and implications also change for MTPLF, if I'm not wrong. I'm not very familiar. I need to do a lot of reading about that, and then we'll share necessary information. So yeah, that's about Metaplanet का story. I would urge you to read this report, जिसको भी इसमें interest है. It's a very detailed one, and it shows the tremendous growth potential of a company dedicated to a Bitcoin strategy and why it matters. Because इनका market cap, अगर आप देखोगे, it's 1.1 trillion now. They were in millions when they started in 2024, April 2024, and it was negligible. Abhi inka market cap is evolving and it's at a high value. Speaking of which, institutional demand in Metaplanet also has significantly increased, almost 10 times in a month, agar aap dekhoge. So a lot of banks, institutions, pension funds are buying Metaplanet, like how they bought MSCR in the initial days and they continue to buy it. नॉर्वेजियन सॉवरेन वेल्थ फंड, नॉर्वेजियन बैंक भी एमएसटीआर खरीदी थी, if I'm not mistaken. So why are they doing this? Not only for the fiat returns, but for what they embody, like what for Metaplanet and MSTR embody. They embody the philosophy that Bitcoin is a very strong asset, is as good as holding gold, but it's superior to gold, so it has its own properties. And that is why they invest in companies like Metaplanet and MSTR. Any thoughts on this, guys? Yeah. Hello.
I think, like as you were saying, like banks and some pension funds were buying this Metaplanet stock. So I think there might be some regulations in Japan which don't allow them to buy Bitcoin directly, but if they want the Bitcoin exposure, now they are able to buy Metaplanet, and that is the reason why I think the institutionals are buying Metaplanet.
Yeah, that's one of the key reasons as well, because they are not directly allowed to hold Bitcoin on the balance sheet. But that's changing as well, if I'm not wrong. हर कोई, even in almost all of the countries across Europe and uh, US, are actively pitching for regulations where banking services are allowed to custody Bitcoin, to hold Bitcoin. So yeah, the next big play for
I think
Metaplanet is,
one thing that I want to call out there is over time it will become easier for all the companies to hold. But Abhi, there are a lot of there are a lot of regulations against it. In fact, in India, Indian corporates cannot buy overseas Bitcoin treasury companies. Like it's very difficult for them to LRS and CTS, TCS, जो guidelines हैं, these guidelines are applicable to retail investors such as ICE. But corporates do not fall under that. So they cannot do that kind of investment. And they can neither invest on outside Bitcoin treasuries nor they can hold Bitcoin because holding Bitcoin again will require them to have their own set of lawyers, change the MOA, change the AOA, explain it to their own shareholders as to why they're owning Bitcoin. So that is why a lot of these capital markets are locked. And whosoever sort of solves that for that capital market, whosoever sort of solves that in that capital market, for example, JetKing has solved that, or the other Bitcoin treasury companies are coming up, they are solving it for India. They will be lapped up by other companies which cannot have exposure to Bitcoin inside India. But once this thing gets simplified and makes it and made easier for people to hold, people will just hold Bitcoin.
absolutely true. Um, yeah, I mean that we'll see that happen in 1 or 2 years tops, is what my take on that is as well. Coming to the next play in Metaplanet. Now Metaplanet is heading the MSTR way. So the next play in their arsenal is the preferred stock, and preferred stocks ka market in Japan is extremely important because Japan is a yield starved nation and उनका almost 0% interest चल रहा होता है, or sometimes negative. So that is why they would want to uh, invest in these kind of instruments. Now, September May they have a meeting where it's a shareholder meeting. It's a extraordinary general meeting which is being conducted on September 1st. Now, us time tak they will have a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and after that, depending on what their plan is, and depending on how affordable they want to make the Meta Planet stock, which is 3350, to their Japanese investors, उस हिसाब से they will take a call in terms of stock splits, in terms of preferred equity offerings वगैरह वगैरह. So these dates are to be observed, and क्या होता है will get to know by then. But yeah, it's all playing out in real time, if you know. This is something
Also,
which
I
needs to
want
be.
to add,
बताइए.
okay, yeah. So these preferreds fall under tier one capital. So tier one capital is a thing which banks need to have. So currently there are like before Strike and Stripe, there are absolutely no ways for banks to have some Bitcoin exposure in their tier one capital. But Strike and Stripe are solving this. So Metaplanet is looking to solve this problem for the Japanese banks, I think. So this
Right.
product can be a good thing for them.
Absolutely. So yeah, moving on to almost the end of the episode, there's one new announcement. Similar Scientific, which is a biotech company, and these guys were the second company after MicroStrategy to adopt Bitcoin treasury, but they have faced a lot of issues, a lot of backlash वगैरह. They have a ongoing case against them as well, जिनके जिसकी वजह से their mNav also has dropped significantly below 1. It's around 0.8 if I'm not wrong, but now it's shot back up to 1.3. तो इन्होंने recently they put out that's yesterday they put out a target of owning 10,000 Bitcoin in 2025, 42,000 Bitcoin in 2026, and 105,000 in 2027. How this is achieved, we are yet to understand, and they will obviously tell this in the months to come. And the most significant aspect of this announcement is this. Now, you have a lot of young individuals in the space who are latching onto Bitcoin as a savings tool, like Digant mentioned, and also as an investment vehicle by adopting it in the companies and making it more volatile and achieving the target as well. With all that mumbo jumbo which I just said, what I mean is Bitcoin is a safe asset, and if it is held on a company's balance sheet, it gives the company options in the long run to experiment with their business models and suit and provide value to the end customer. इसके चलते a lot of Bitcoiners who are new and who have been following the space are being acquired by these companies, these treasury companies, in as Bitcoin advisors and as Bitcoin strategists, कह लो and stuff. Now, same चीज अगर आप देखोगे, जैक मॉलर्स ने in association with Cantor Fitzgerald उन्होंने अपना नया company start किया, which is 21. Dylan, obviously, he gravitated towards Metaplanet, and Natalie Brunel is already a part of Similar Scientific. But abhi Joe Burnett, jo hai, he also got hired by uh, Similar Scientific. So we'll see more of this happening, where people from traditional finance who clearly understand what Bitcoin is about, they will slowly be acquired into companies which are Bitcoin treasury companies. This is happening all around the world. This will happen in India too in the near future. कौन कैसे किसको हायर करेगा based on their understanding of Bitcoin is yet to be seen, but that's one of the key things that I'd like to highlight.
I wanted to add a trivia before closing, and which is I always wondered like why did Satoshi choose this pseudonym, Satoshi Nakamoto? And back then, if you know, like one of the most popular exchanges was Mt. Gox, and because Japan had like very low interest rate, people found Bitcoin fascinating. Unlike other countries where you can do something with the money, in Japan you can not do much with your money. Uh, and that's a manifestation of 1990s asset bubble, which burst, and then government sort of like brought the inflation down, brought the interest rates to around zero. And now when you have this Metaplan story repeating again, wherein Metaplan can go to the market and buy debt at 0% interest rate, buy Bitcoin out of it. Uh, it seems as if Satoshi foresaw what could happen and what is the right geography where Bitcoin adoption can happen. The first, it did not happen for some reason. Mt. Gox failed, and the whole momentum behind Bitcoin in Japan died. But it is picking up again thanks to Bitcoin Treasury Company.
और कौन कौन सी है जापान की कंपनी, लिस्ट निकालो जल्दी.
नहीं, actually है. I mean, I think one of the person track भी कर रहा था. There's Remix Point. Yeah, Remix Point है. There's
Remix Works, NAP Holdings.
NAP Holdings. And there are a couple of them. I think around 10
चार पांच
companies
है.
who have already started accumulating in Bitcoin in Japan. So yeah, closing thing is what I'd say. कौन? हाँ, बताओ.
मुझे एक चीज पूछनी है. लाइक मुझे लाइक सब लोग सोच ही रहे क्या होगा कि ये जो आगे ट्रेजरी कंपनीज है, इसका फ्यूचर क्या दिखता है. लाइक 5 साल 10 साल 10-15 साल बाद आप लोगों को क्या फ्यूचर दिखता है? ये क्या लाइक बैंक्स बनेगा, या फिर ये बड़े बड़े लाइक बैंक्स के ऊपर क्या होता है? बैंक्स के ऊपर क्या होता है? फिर सरकारी होती है सीधी.
क्या बोलेगा
मुझे
ये?
लगता है कि जैसे अगर मैं पैरेलल करोलरी देखता हूँ कि क्या सारी कंपनियां टेक कंपनी बन गई? तो हाँ, ऑलमोस्ट लाइक हम लोग भी पॉडकास्ट रन कर रहे हैं, एंड इवन इफ समवन इज रनिंग हिज टायर शॉप, ही हैज अ वेबसाइट प्रेजेंस व्हिच माइट हैव अ फॉर्म जहाँ पे लोग वो भर सकता है, rather टेकिंग गिविंग हिज फोन नंबर, ही पुट अप अ फॉर्म भर दो and I'll get the code. Or even a barbers are running this scheduling system. So you go to Google Maps, find a barber shop, schedule an appointment, and then he will receive it on his phone, a WhatsApp appointment, and then he's serving those customers, right? Bitcoin is going to be that technology. You are using Bitcoin to buy products and services, but to enable, but when it will happen when the businesses are interested in stocking more Bitcoin than cash, which will happen when the listed companies sort of start showing 3x NAV, 5x NAV on the amount of Bitcoin that they have. So as Michael Saylor says, right, this is the time when you have the store of value thing playing out. Over time, it will move to medium of over time it will move to medium of exchange and then unit of account. So unit of account will happen pretty late, in my opinion. As in, it's not my opinion; it's his opinion that I'm reiterating. So it will come to fruition pretty late. The prices will become stable pretty late when it becomes unit of account. But in the medium term, it will move to medium of exchange, and that is a phase wherein it will make sense for your company to be valued on the amount of Bitcoin that you're earning. So if Apple is selling phone, the phones will be sold on Bitcoin, and because Apple has got so many Bitcoin, the company should be valued at a multiple of this. A lot of bigger companies cannot see this, and a lot of smaller companies are just pulling off buying Bitcoin from debt, and both are not optimal. But we have to start from somewhere, and the market sort of over corrects itself in the long run.
Absolutely agreed. And to answer your question, Bhavik, मुझे लगता है strategy has already become a bank, Bitcoin bank. उनके credit instruments are already on fire. They are over collateralized by Bitcoin. So those are the safest, in our opinion, at least, is what I think. If you're backing something 6 times by Bitcoin, जैसा भी बोलो, जो भी बोलो, I mean, I strongly feel Bitcoin will not crash to 5,000 or $10,000 in the near future or ever at this point. But possibility, not saying it won't happen, it may happen, who knows, but there's a very very small possibility of it, like 0.001%. But having said that, yeah, they are already a bank. They will become a quasi government if allowed to be. Unke shareholders are citizens of strategy, and they are enjoying the benefits and perks now. Like you rightly pointed out, मेटा प्लैनेट का अगर आप 3350 स्टॉक खरीदते हो, एंड वीव ऑल्सो रेड दिस एंड कम अक्रॉस वन ऑफ द ट्वीट्स. नाउ व्हाट दे आर डूइंग इज फॉर एवरी मेटा प्लान, आई एम नॉट श्योर इफ इट्स फॉर एवरी, बट 3350 स्टॉक होल्डर जो भी होता है, they get a 10% off on the hotel in Japan that they're making. So models like this will open up. एंड जैसे अब सौरभ ने बोला था कि एप्पल, इफ दे आर सेलिंग फोन्स विद रिस्पेक्ट टू बिटकॉइन, they have to make that phone last longer. ऐसा नहीं है कि कुछ भी कचरा बना दिया और बेच दिया for bitcoin, nobody will buy it, because they know if they have to part with their bitcoin, it has to be of value. जैसे अगर सेम चीज अगर देख लो ना, वी आर गोइंग टू अ वेरी हार्ड लो टाइम प्रेफरेंस एनवायरमेंट वेर यू बिल्ड थिंग्स विच विल लास्ट. पुराने एसीज देख लो, पुराने गाड़ी देख लो, you wouldn't have to change it every 5 years, 10 years. एक बार लिया, like बाप दादा जमाने के टाइम से, if you're seeing, one car will last a lifetime in that generation, and उसके बाद में भी, in fact. So stuff like that will be made, and that will be sold for bitcoin. You cannot sell cheap, garbage stuff. Nobody will want to buy that. It's my 2 cents.
And on the
Fix the
country
money, fix
analogy
the
that he
world.
mentioned, my analogy is like you had movements which started from priests, and so you had priests like king, and then you had warriors like king. Similarly, Bitcoin movement was started by developers. So you had the first go at it, which was, and developers are like the priests of this new technology, right? And then you have these businessmen, these people who are running corporations and holding Bitcoin, are the warriors of our generation. So the corollary there is you have Michael Saylor is the Genghis Khan of our times, right? That under his control probably is was the most biggest, and probably Michael Saylor controls the second biggest Bitcoin holding all over in the world that is held by anyone. Maybe he will cross Satoshi someday.
Yeah. And by sailor, we are clearly specifying its strategy as a company. So his own personal stack is around 10,000 or 17,000 Bitcoin, or he might have increased for all you know, who knows. But yeah, so strategy is a country in itself, is what my take is. Digant, आप कुछ बोल रहे थे?
There are posts in Twitter which says like strategy will become the Dutch East India Company. So whole world will be revolving around strategy.
Agree. I
Also,
personally.
people who are feeling some bearish things in strategy, who are holders of strategy, they have some good news. Like if Bitcoin closes around this price, strategy might report $15 billion gain. So this will this will I mean what I can say, I don't have the word. This will blow out the minds of TradFi people, and
Yeah.
we might see a run up. We might see a run up. So yeah,
That will be the
that's
largest
it.
in the history, if I'm not wrong, as a report karna, those gains in the quarter. Because I mean, till
Not largest, but yeah, they will be around top 10 something odd.
oh really, it won't be
App-
Tesla and Apple in its
No, no,
No, no,
gain.
Apple's
Apple
largest
उनके आसपास आ
quarterly
जाएंगे.
profit was around 36 billion or 33 billion, I think.
Nice,
Yeah. If
good
Bhavik's
stuff.
I think
prediction
तीन
holds
चार क्वार्टर में
true,
हो सकता है ये.
yeah.
Yes, yes,
Awesome.
दिगंत क्या?
If Bhavik's prediction holds true, then of course.
Crazy हो जाएगा
Yeah.
फिर तो.
I'm just picking out one of the comments. Baki जो भी whoever has tuned in, namaste आपको भी, and good morning, good afternoon from wherever you're tuning in. This is one question where I'd like all of your thoughts, and then we'll close for today. Any thoughts on Pakistan Sailor BTC news? So, for those who are unaware of this, uh, Michael Saylor spoke to the finance minister of Pakistan in addition to वहाँ के क्रिप्टो जार बिलाल शायद नाम है उनका. सो ये हुआ था आई थिंक लास्ट वीक. एंड व्हाट डू यू थिंक द सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ दिस इज गाइस? लाइक आई would want to know your thoughts on this.
I think if you have a lot of bitcoins, you have a stronger company, you have stronger country. So uh, I mean, it makes sense for other countries to stock it. I hope that this happens with Pakistan, and then India uh, sort of picks up the momentum on considering Bitcoin as an asset to go after. They start sort of looking at Bitcoin mining seriously. So yeah, it's a win-win. Like whoever comes to Bitcoin, um, sort of whoever has seen the light, it's all good. They will bring that light to other people. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, my thoughts exactly. So there is, that's the beauty of Bitcoin, right? There is no competition यहाँ पे. I mean, it's like rising tide lifts all boats kind of a analogy, where any country and every country who adopts Bitcoin benefits from it directly or indirectly. Because
Michael Saylor has an interesting take on it. It's
yeah,
like Bitcoin is like Manhattan real estate. So if another developer comes and develops it there, is the first developer like losing out, or is the second developer losing out? No. Uh, I
absolutely.
mean, if Bitcoin Pakistan adopts it, it's good for Bitcoin. It's good for Michael Saylor, and then if any other country adopts it, it's good for them. But yeah, the sooner they adopt it, the better.
True.
Yeah.
Chaliye, I think that's all we had for this introductory session of today's episode. And we will bring more such relevant news, insights, and analysis on a weekly basis. And yeah, do let us know in comments and let us know on how we can improve and what you'd like to see and hear more of. And we will get you that information accordingly. In the Indian context, in the foreign context as well. Abhi tak we don't have much news in India to share. That's why we share everything from across the world. And there's so much happening in a week. It's difficult to condense all of it. And that's why jitna bhi ho sakta hai, we are trying to push this forward. But yeah, any and uh, all suggestions welcome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Thank you.
See you in the
Thanks,
next
Yeah.
guys.
one.
Yeah.
See See you next week. Bye
नेक्स्ट
bye.
नेक्स्ट एपिसोड में मिलते हैं गाइस. बाय बाय, टेक केयर, थैंक यू.
Number one thing you can do is educate the world on Bitcoin and let people know they need to figure out Bitcoin. And every one of you does make a difference, because I would never get those meetings if it wasn't like someone that went and said, you got to pay attention. And my last point to you, you do not sell your Bitcoin. Thank you. Thank you.